Good afternoon. Welcome to the Real Estate Focus Group. We meet every other Tuesday here at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm Chuck Fosberg, along with my lovely wife, Pat. We're your friends in Florida, and today we're very, very fortunate to have Anthony Young. Anthony is an appraiser, a marketer, a true expert in many, many fields. If you were at the Next Home conference last week, you saw him on stage, and we are so grateful to have him here today. So, Anthony, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. So, yeah. Well, is everybody back and recovered from conference?
Yes.
It's
Okay.
taken a while, I'll tell you right now.
It's yeah, the same for me. I came back in and everything was going 200 miles an hour, and
Yep.
I definitely hit the ground running, and I won't start to breathe until about Sunday afternoon this week. And
Yeah, we definitely learned a lot and came back ready to make some changes to some things
yeah,
that we've been doing and making improvements.
yeah.
So, Anthony, I know you've got a little list of frequently asked questions that we can start
Mhm.
off with, or people here viewing, feel free to ask anything. This is a rare opportunity to sit down with a nationally known expert and be able to ask anything you want.
Except for what color socks I'm wearing. I have boundaries. I have lines.
You don't have any on.
You don't wear socks. Come on.
That is right.
They're
I
skin
figured if
colored.
praising didn't work for me, I'd sell feet pics, but we'll see. So let's just go ahead and shoot.
All right. I've got one that just came up today and that I'd like to ask. So
Mhm.
it's a two-story home, and on the second floor, the roof pitch dictates the ceiling. So some of the roof is more than 7 feet tall, some of it is less than 7 feet tall. How do we
Mhm.
figure out the square feet in a room like that?
Well, I mean, one, it's a difference between how we're going to measure it as appraisers and how the market might look at it. If it's big enough for a full size adult to be in there, we might value it differently than when we hide the kids up there, right? Or store luggage. From the appraisal standpoint, it's based on ANSI. If anybody's taking any notes at all, it's ANSI, ANSI measuring guidelines. And so if we have that pitch there, right, the room has to be at least 7 feet tall for 50% of the room, no less than 5 feet. So pretty much, I mean, even in some areas, the appraisers will give value to even if it's this area. But once we hit on the wall, I don't know if you guys can see that there on my camera. So
Mhm.
let's say it goes all the way in. If the top of my finger is 5 feet, that's where it stops. So we would just create a channel. Let's say that's a 50-foot long attic space or pitched area. It's going to be 50 times anything between the two 5-foot lines. And that would be the usable square footage. Doesn't mean the market won't pay more or see it better. But we always, whenever we price something, we want to be careful because if an appraiser goes in and he's technical, he or she is very technical because they're saying in the reports now they're measuring based on ANSI. So they're certifying that. That would be the thing. And they can default from that too. If let's say the market is full, like we have, four or five, six comps, and everybody values the whole space, the appraiser is to reflect what the market is doing regardless of the guideline. We don't get to
Interesting.
change things. Does that make sense there? We have to do exactly. If you're going to go in and say, you guys come in and everybody, seven other families, look at that and say, hey, no, this isn't 1,500 square feet. This is 2,000. And you value it based on that. The appraiser must approach it that way and then explain why they defaulted from ANSI.
Interesting. Very good.
Wow, I didn't think they could default from ANSI, so that's really cool to know
Those are
that.
guidelines. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, if I could piggyback on just even that statement right there, everything is a guideline, right? When we look at the secondary market, we look at the GSEs, those are risk management guidelines. Those have nothing to do with valuation.
Hmm.
And so that's where, we, on our side of the table, we go, I'm in the private sector, but there's a separator between private sector and what we call bank appraisers, right? So there's the guys who do private sector work and bank, and they know how to kind of approach it. There's other guys who were trained by the banks. And if you're trained by the banks, you're trained in risk management. Those are only guidelines. That is not valuation. But basically, the way the lender does it is write guidelines and say everything has to be inside 6 months. Everything has to be within 1 mile. Everything can't be adjusted more than 25%. Everything has to be measured this way. It's like bumpers in a bowling alley. If we give them less room to mess up, they're not going to mess up, right? So yeah, everything is a guideline. Everything could be defaulted from because like I've told, back in my bank days, it was like, hey, maybe this just isn't a Fannie Mae product. That's not my issue. But this is the way the market views this property, and they're not concerned with your adjustment guidelines.
Very interesting.
So going back to ADUs, I actually just read an article this morning about New York City is
Mhm.
now allowing ADUs like in basements
Mhm.
and places like that. And I know one thing that you had talked about with ADUs, and for those of you who don't know what an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit. And in St. Petersburg, we just in the past 2 years, we were allowed to build ADUs, like in our
Mhm.
backyards and stuff like that. And but I know it's like a big deal because I know you had said that the actual ADU must touch the property. Is that right? Or am I misinformed
Yeah,
about that?
no, you're on the right train. We're going in the same direction, right? So to pull the layers back there, one is for everybody, I mean, you may already know this, but I'm just going to say it because there are a lot of people that don't. It's not an ADU unless it can perform outside of the main house. What I mean by that is it has to have a kitchen and bathroom. If it does not have a kitchen and bathroom, it is not an ADU, just point blank. It is a guest suite. It's a thing where, we put our mother-in-law in. It's where we, our teenage son live. It's everything but an ADU. Okay. Now, the next piece is what you're talking about is it doesn't have to be adjoining, but if the ADU, if I cannot walk in the main house and through the house into the ADU, it is not a part of the square footage. It is a separate line adjustment, no different than a pool, no different than anything else. It is not because the moment I go, and that's going back to ANSI guidelines, right? ANSI measuring guidelines. The moment I walk outside to enter any other structure, it is not a part of the main square footage. So that's where it's for the agent side is to make sure that you guys don't price something. If it's like a 2,000 square foot main house with a 1,000 square foot ADU, one, don't comp it against 3,000 square foot properties unless it's attached. Because this is gonna be layered, and this is where I kind of get in the woods, is we value where our kids sleep differently than where we make a man cave. Would we agree on that, folks?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So the value emotionally doesn't transfer from the main house to the ADU, which is an option. So first thing, don't value if it's a broken up 2,000 and 1,000. Don't comp it against 3,000 square foot houses. You comp it against 2,000 square foot houses. Okay. But I always tell my clients if you're going to build an ADU and you have an option, like we're trying to house hack a little bit, connect it to the main house. Because if I can walk in from the front door of the main house into the ADU, I now can value the whole thing as one, which is going to, in most cases, have a superior return than two pieces on there. So it doesn't have to be connected, but if we're going to include in the square footage, we definitely want it to be connected to pass through. Put a bookcase in front of it, something.
So what we've seen here in St. Petersburg is like we'll have a home and then it'll have like a garage in the backyard, but it's like a two-story.
Mhm.
So upstairs, they've been allowed to now put in, make an ADU upstairs. But because there's no connectivity between main house and the garage, it's just a, grassy area, they really cannot then put that as part of the square footage. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, yes, you are correct there. And we always flow with the market, but we have to be very careful when it comes to the appraisal. So here, about 10 minutes south of me, and on the East Hills, the builders have built the casita on top of the garage, same format. Three car garage, 600 square foot casita up top, and they've grouped it and said it's the 3,500 square foot property. Well, really, it's a 29 and a six, right?
Mhm.
So if everybody in the market is marketing a 29 and a six as 35, then you've got to do it too, but make sure your comps are directly those houses with the casitas because the appraiser is going to come and break it out. Doesn't mean the adjustment should be different, but the appraiser is going to break it out. If the market is valuing it as 3,500, the appraiser must approach it the same way. We don't define it, but yeah. So that's
Really interesting.
it's it's always paying attention to what the market is doing, and then anytime there's a discrepancy we all, on our MLS, I don't know if you guys have the same thing. On our MLS, like I have the MLS sheet up, and I'm just going to click on the tax record. If the tax record says 29, but the MLS is 35, I'm like, okay, 600 square foot ADU. That's the gap on there. So we just disclose it and put it in the comments, but we know that nobody reads the comments. On appraisers or agents, my better half is an agent, and she's like, I have it in the comments. I have the showing instruction in the comments. I have the combo thing in the comments. Nobody reads the comments. Why is
Yeah,
that?
those are invisible.
That's true.
Yeah. And what our MLS started doing a short while ago is they consider that what we're calling it in our MLS an in-law suite,
Mm-hmm.
and it's broken out separately.
Yeah.
I
And
think
that's
it's a good idea that they broke it out separately like that.
are they putting the square footage in there mandatory?
Yes.
Perfect. I mean, that's something I'm gonna I've got some mountains I'm climbing right now, but as soon as I'm done with that, I'm gonna push really hard in a meeting with the MLS boards to give them perspective of what we need to analyze, not only as an appraiser, but as we move into the life of AI and analyzing the machine can't tell. So what I'm challenging real estate agents, and I know it's more tedious, but the more we go to appraisal waivers, the more we have the computer doing the thing. That means that there's more weight on everybody that's watching to be detailed in, hey, there's a 600 square foot basement, like putting it in there in the comments, because obviously the machine can read that. The ADU is 550 square feet, might be more work for you, but you don't want me comparing your 550 square foot ADU with somebody's 200 square foot ADU because I have to guess what the size is.
Mm.
So, it is important. If you guys we move the MLS along, I would love it for it to always be a required field to input an estimated square footage or something for basements, attics, and ADUs.
Well, that really underscores the importance of us as agents putting in complete information in
Absolutely.
this and not being lazy about it and just putting in the minimal amount of information.
Well, and it comes back around because for me, like I'm big into data science, right? Even before the AI thing, I've been doing this for 17 years, the data science side of it, right? And so I can only analyze what you guys put in there. And so like for views, it's the most frustrating thing here. It's like, there's not categories. You have 57 categories, so I can't break it out. So now with the machine, I can obviously, analyze the comments, but everything you guys put in there, the advanced appraisers, let me back that one up. I would say modernized appraisers who approach it from a modernized standpoint need your details for us to be even more accurate when we're running analytics.
That makes total sense. So that brings me to an aside. Uh, there seems to be a trend around here anyway of agents going in after a property has sold and removing all the photographs except for the
You're
front.
going to make me lose my hair.
Uh, I hate it myself. I think it does us all a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it very difficult for us to create a market analysis. It must be a nightmare for you as an appraiser.
Well, that's something that I started in a couple weeks ago because I noticed it's starting to trend more and more. And the thing is, it's a problem for you. It's a nightmare for us, but it's going to be an equity killer for the consumer. And so what I'm going to start pushing through my social media is like, hey, I joke about it and say, you're not Elon Musk. Nobody's studying your floor plan of your house and nobody cares about the stage furniture. Like, let's relax. But more importantly, if you think you have a problem with appraisers getting it right or wrong right now, think about when we always have to assume. And so I challenge real estate agents to try to find a way to explain to the consumer that, hey, I understand you want to remove it, but let me tell you that it's no longer maybe going through the IDX feed and may break that down for them, but it's now only behind the paywall for professionals. And professionals need that to make sure we don't kill value in your neighborhood. The moment we turn the negative back, it's like, oh, is it that important that my vacant living room is not on MLS? Right. And I think the lack of education is going to become a really big problem. Like, I don't, like James and we see, I understand his position, but I don't think the market understands some of the things that are happening with private listings and all these other things. And I'm not knocking them. I'm not here nor there. I'm analyzing the fact that we keep taking information away now. In the age of information, you're now removing marketing time, which is a key indicator that I look at. And I don't think the guys making the decision understand how we use that information. when it comes to marketing time. So to circle back around to your question, it is extremely it's a nightmare, and if it becomes more widespread, it's going to be a bigger problem for analytics. I mean, we could have gotten a lot better. I mean, we have AI that can analyze a photo and tell you can analyze 2,500 properties in a minute and tell you the value of tile in a room. And we're taking that away now.
Yes.
We're going backwards.
Well, that brings up an interesting point, Anthony. So, as agents, like beyond showing up to answer questions and holding the end of the tape, what can we do to help an appraiser to be able to do their job more easily?
Okay. Well, I'm going to answer that question, but I'm going to bridge that back to the prior topic. If you have to remove the photos from MLS, I challenge you to be basically like a children's book writer. Like walk me through the house. Even if you use ChatGPT, I don't know how you do it. Make sure I know exactly how that house looks if you have to remove the photos so that I can say, oh, kitchen was updated, but the bathrooms were outdated. The flooring, there's three different versions of wood flooring in the house. The paint was good, but you could tell there'd, been lived in by five boys who played football, right? I mean, obviously I'm being, funny there, but be super descriptive on there on the comments. That helps me with lapses the photo. The big thing that we can do for appraisers, I believe, is one, if guys are still having you hold the other end of the tape, order them a little $50 laser measurer. So we'll start there. We'll advance them there. Okay. The second part is just being descriptive and bringing color to the MLS sheets. I always joke like, hey, what is the reason? I start my speeches sometimes like, hey, what is the reason why you go meet the appraiser? And different comments will come. And I'm like, tell me you're doing something more than making sure that my belt matches my watch band, matches my shoes, right? Give us MLS information, but we have that access already. And we even look at it and use MLS different than you guys do. So I challenge everybody when you're going to meet with an appraiser to bring MLS sheets, but put comments on those MLS sheets, things that we wouldn't know. We are science blended with art, some of us, and some of us are just science. So you have to bring the art and you have to bring the things that we didn't know about that, like for instance, a property, this one sold low. Don't leave it out, but explain why it sold low. This one sold low because they wouldn't, we had a tenant, the buyer had to assume the tenant, which was kind of blockading the house, wouldn't let us show, had to buy it sight unseen and buy the problem. Or, hey, in the 24th hour, we discovered that there was a water leak in the bathroom in the last 20 years. And when they were doing the final walkthrough, the floor fell through, and therefore we had to give a credit, right? Bring color to those things, and then maybe tell the appraiser things that they should know, but they might not. Like, hey, this side of the street goes to this school, which is a different type of rating than this side of the street. Or I don't know if you know that yes, we are in the same development. It's all inside of a quarter mile. However, that area is known for land slippage and drain issues. Like tell us stuff that can expand our mind. And when an appraiser calls, those are the exceptional ones, folks. Those are the exceptional ones, right? We have 6 million transactions a year in the US. How many agents truly get phone calls from appraisers? So when they get like, we love when I get that one agent that will just burn my ear open because my level of intelligence based on what you guys feel in the market and see and know about that neighborhood, know about that area, it shoots through the roof and we're all working the same farm. So when an appraiser calls, please answer their message, text them back. Do not treat them like they're annoying because that guy or gal is literally doing an exceptional job, which a lot of appraisers do not do.
Oh, you're so right. I love it when an appraiser calls. Hey, Chuck, you sold this house a while back. I got some questions about it. I know that person's really going above and beyond to really do a great job for
Well,
their
the
client.
sad part is you're supposed to call on every deal. We're supposed to interview people of the part of the transaction on every single deal.
Really?
So that tells you how many times
Okay, that's
exceptional
rare.
go up.
Yeah.
That
So
is rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were all excited when the appraiser called.
Yeah. I love that because
No, we
it
love
really
it.
shows that they care.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
of course, we're always happy to answer questions.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and usually it's something like what you described, like, hey, this thing, it seems like it sold for less than it was worth. What happened?
Yeah,
And then
that's a
we're able
powerful
to,
question.
yeah, and tell them what happened, and then
Mhm.
they can figure it out from there.
Well, and it helps us not hang our hat on that comp or the reason why we should hang our hat on that comp. Hey,
Mm.
you know what? You sold a little bit higher, and I know you pointed out this comp, like all of them are renovated, but I'm trying to figure out like why did we lean this way? Well, the reason why is because yes, while there were four comps, they were all renovated. They weren't all the same quality. A couple of these guys were in and out in 30 days. This guy remodeled it and renovated for his family and for himself at a high level, never planned on moving, but then had a job transfer. So the quality wasn't the same. And if you walk through the house on an open house day, you would feel it, know it, see it, smell it. Right. And that's where it helps us say, oh, this is why. And then we get to tell, like the bank appraisers get to tell the underwriter, this is why I did this. So your ABM data, this is why I'm on the outside of it, because these comps are not the same quality of this comp. However, this comp is not an over improvement because that's the key thing we have to say. It's top tier, but it didn't go too far.
So we have people from all over the country on here, and I'm wondering if anyone has any questions for Anthony regarding their specific location. You know, Corey is in Idaho Falls, and it's like, well, he said it's warm there now, but I mean, there could be some things
Comparatively.
going on there that, may not be happening in where Dan is in Seattle, and
Seattle. I'm from Seattle originally.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm living out in Lake Taps.
South Hill
Okay.
before the mall was there.
We could have been neighbors, Anthony.
Yeah. So I went from Fort Ord, California, down to Fort Lewis before they joined Army bases.
Okay. I
So
spent a lot
Germany,
of
El
time,
Paso, Fort Ord.
spent a lot of time at
Lewis.
Fort Lewis.
Yeah. So yeah, no. Went
So
to
feel free.
graduated from Auburn. Went to Rogers in Auburn.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Anyways, back to the
Okay. So feel free to ask questions as we go along. Otherwise, I got a whole list of questions.
I actually have one that I
Go ahead,
just
Corey.
dealt with. We're pretty redneck here in Idaho. Everybody's got side by sides and travel trailers and
Mhm.
a lot of outdoorsy things. And I just had a sale where an RV pad was poured right next to the garage. Huge. My client spent roughly $20,000 to put this RV pad, and it was not even considered in the appraisal at all.
Okay.
And it was a huge upgrade compared to the comparables that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Is that normal?
Well, I can't say if it's normal or not because first there's other questions we have to figure out. Like one, the last thing I just said is over improvement, right? So like I have, we've got a little bit of everything here, right? So like my better half, she came from the Central Valley. Out there, it's all land, right? Out over here, it's all lots. So like I tell her, I grew up when there's land. If I didn't need a fence, if you were close enough, you were close enough to get shot, right? So, as my grandpa would say. But back to the thing, I had, she had a client that spent $250,000 on this, this fencing around his property, but nobody else did that. So the market was not going to return that. So the question I returned back to you as the market leader there, is that common? If we take off a 6-month span, if we take off the 1 mile thing, if we say, hey, is this in the last 5 years, can I find any other properties that spent $20,000 on an RV pad? We can. Perfect.
Yeah.
So this is what the appraiser should have done. And I'm going to get a little deep here, guys, but feel free to message me after this if you want me to expand on this. What the appraiser should have done is gone back 3, 4, 5 years, find the other properties that have that type of amenity and compare those properties against other properties that sold at the same time. So let's say we had a property, we're in 2026, let's say it was 2023, right? And we just try to keep it simple. Let's just say, that property sold with the pad for $1 million in 23. And there's a guy that sold without the pad to the same size house for 900,000 at the same time. We know that pad brought 10% to the value. So the appraiser should have went back if it's not an over improvement. If we can if we can show that we can reproduce that amenity in the market, regardless of time frame, then there should have been approached and the appraiser should have compared the percentage difference between the properties with those pads and without at that different period. So if that was in 2020, in 2022, and 24, that should have gave a range. And even if the appraiser say, there's 1,000 other variables, but we do know that the market as a compass proved that that's a superior amenity, then the appraiser could have swung the value.
Okay.
And then we have that same issue with solar. It's like, guys, just because you don't have comps that happened yesterday doesn't mean there's no value. Do the work.
Right, right. And it's huge when people have car haulers and toy haulers,
Uh-huh.
the big RVs. Having a place where it's not in their lawn or in the mud is a huge advantage.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the same
And
thing here with land. It's like, we don't care about the house. We can build the house.
right,
How big is the arena? How many stalls? What do we have as the workshop? Is it insulated? Does it have AC? Is it all powered up? Do we have solar? Are we off grid? Like, we care more about the auxiliary things of the land here than the actual house itself
Mhm.
when we get to the land. So yeah, in those areas, it is important in that appraiser, in my opinion, without seeing anything, please forgive me,
Sure.
they should have acknowledged it and analyzed it. Just
So it's fair to ask him to go back 5 years and take a look at comparables that have the RV pads, because he wouldn't even consider it. I did call him, and
Mhm.
it he stuck to his guns. We got the deal done, but I think I could
Right.
have got my client more.
Yeah, and then I'm about to on that topic. This is something I guess we will announce it here. I've got something that's going to be coming out in about 30 days where I'm going to completely upset the entire industry. So situations like that, just because the number came in, doesn't mean the appraisal was credible. And so I'm going to put together an ebook buddied up with a video that shows the entire nation how to read the appraisal for credibility, and then what questions to ask the appraiser to push back. Because in situations like this where you may have negotiated something or you knew your clients had more, money there, cool, the deal got done. But that doesn't mean your credibility isn't tarnished when you said, hey, this is worth more. Let's write here. You put the trust was extended through your advice. And so I want to be able to show the market participant, hey, no, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I wasn't wrong. We're not going to challenge it because the deal is done. We don't care, but I want you to know that if the appraiser did this, this, and this, it would have supported exactly what I told you. So the appraiser should have went back in time and found those properties that had that. Now let's. I'm really big on taking responsibility and taking control of the situation. Like I'm an old boxer, right? We don't leave it to the judges. So the advice for if it's a sticky situation next time is go in and find those properties and provide those properties. I know it's our job to do our job, but the deal could have been killed by not somebody not doing their job. And so now you can support with data saying, hey, I've got what we call pairings. I've got 5 properties that have pads just like this or similar that have sold in this market area. And I found 3 comps for each one of those properties that sold at that same time that shows that there was a range between a 2 and 7% difference paid for that amenity. And then now you have the proof. And now that appraiser has to have superior proof because the person with documentation wins. And so if they say, no, there's no value, but you just proved it with evidence, not your opinion of the market, now you can run this up the chain, right? Run this up the chain to the chief appraiser. And we never start the conversation like this. And this is where I get really passionate, but we never start the conversation with this. But if somebody is just ignoring the facts and playing God with the number, not remembering that there's a human behind it, and they won't change it no matter what, you say, okay, hey, I'll just have the state review it and I'll see if they agree with you. And I bet you they'll take that call serious. I'm not saying don't start there. Any business deal. I don't care if it's a handshake in a field or in a boardroom. You don't start with your lawyers. But if you just won't be reasonable, I will take it there because somebody's getting hurt because of that.
Thank you so much.
Wow, there's a bunch of good information right there.
Yeah, that was amazing.
So, Anthony, you brought up solar panels. All right, I know here in Florida, generally speaking, they add little to no value, according to most appraisers. Can you give us a little bit of guidance and wisdom on solar panels?
Well, with that, I always like to start with a fun joke. Have you ever tried to refinance a rental car? So lease solar might have the market might like it, but the lender won't value it. And that's not the appraiser's fault. The lender's not going to, because if somebody can come take it, if a bill's not paid, then the lender doesn't want to extend anything on that. So let's start there. If it's lease solar, sometimes there's value. A lot of times there's might be a negative value because of the issues with the contracts. Completely on topic but off topic. I believe in the next 2 to 5 years, litigation will start coming down on the ADU contractors and the solar guys because there's so much misinformation that's out there, right? So with the lease solar, if you have it for a client, run it through ChatGPT, have it point out all the things you should know about that contract because there's so much stuff hidden. When it comes to actual solar, it depends on the market. So just like here, we have places where they're going to pay 7, 9, 10% more. We have places where they're going to pay 2% more. There's places like I had a real estate agent that said, Anthony, I'm still pissed off about this guy in Benicia, this appraiser. He didn't give me any value for the solar. And I'm like, well, send me the address. I'm going to look it up. Because data, it's forensic. Like I can look at the data and see if it was true or not. I pulled it up. I ran it. I said, hey, Matt, that market doesn't care about solar. They don't value it, right? So if I can give you guys the framework of how to figure out if there value to the solar, you guys want to do that real quick?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
So this is the technique. This is a technique called group paired analysis. Okay, we'll just call it grouping for short. Okay, and it's the same technique that I just discussed with the gentleman with the pad. It's where we isolate one thing. So I'm going to try to keep this simple, folks. I'm going to take 5 1,000 square foot properties, or 900 to 1,100. We keep that tight because we want to isolate one thing. 5 1,000 square foot properties that have no solar, and 5 1,000 square foot properties that do have solar owned. The market reaction on a percentage basis is the difference. So again, I'm going to like to keep it simple numbers. The 1,000 square foot properties without solar sold for 1 million. The guys with solar sold for 1.1. That tells us the solar value is 10% of value. Okay. You use that same technique for pools. You use the same technique for story count. You use the same technique for pads. You use the same technique for location. If I've got the best comps on the other side of the major road, but I know buyers will entertain the most or they're similar, I take 5 properties from our side of the road, make sure it's the same size properties. What's the median? The median sales price or price per square foot? Controlled, right? When I say controlled, you guys make sure it's like I don't have a 5,000 square foot lot and a 40,000 square foot lot in there. And then I do the same thing. I write that down and I do the same thing on the other side of the road. That grouping always reveals what the market has done. I still disagree with, and I've been at this a quarter century, data science for 17, 18 now. And I still disagree with the pairings is what we called it originally when I came in the industry, where you find one property without it. It's like the textbook that you guys, textbook question, one property without a solar and one property with it. And I challenge a person like, are you that dang good? Are you that good that you've isolated everything else, right? Statistically, I want to see 5 or 10 or 15 properties in this group, 5, 10 or 15 properties in this group, same date range. That will tell me if the true market cares. But one house and one house is like judging a buffet off of one meatball. You don't know. It's I don't think it's credible, and that's my personal opinion. I'll take using 200 comps over a guy that uses 3 sales all day long. So that's how you do it for solar. It's grouping one without it and one with it, and that tells you the difference.
Very nice. So what kind of improvements do actually pay off? And I know that's kind of a general question.
I mean, again, it all depends on the market, right? So we just talked about, my Central Valley agricultural corridor, they care more about things outside the house than they do the house. I can change the house all day long, right? But being able to build all the things is different. If we're looking in the suburbs, we're looking at your traditional world, I'm going to always look at kitchen and bathrooms, right? Because what's a bedroom? 6 walls. Right. So always there. But again, it all depends on markets. So like I'm in a market that people try to be politically correct here so I don't get canceled on a YouTube. But
you can say anything here.
We're safe. It's just us. No, there are markets that care more about the show than other markets. So in my market, you're going to get a huge reaction to not having the updated kitchen and bathroom. Okay. In Tahoe, we don't care. I've got a house in Tahoe. You know what I mean? It's like, am I by the runs? Then there's another market near the South Bay of where I'm at, where I tell clients, do not remodel the house because the buyer in the space doesn't care. They're still spending $3 million, and it could be my great grandfather's kitchen. with linoleum. Like it doesn't matter. They're not into the show. They don't care. They just want location to Google, right? They want location to all the, Silicon Valley. They don't care about the show, right? So, 50,000 foot view, kitchen and bathrooms. After the pandemic, we've seen a big push for outdoor living spaces, and enjoying the house more. But it all depends, market dependent on what matters.
Very good.
Like Tahoe, it's like, hey, how can I gain access to my property when it snows?
I have a quick question for you, Anthony, if I might. I have a listing coming up, and this is definitely a true one-of-a-kind property. There's nothing like it. It's 3,700 square feet. It's a round house, like physically shaped round, and it's a split level. It hasn't been on the market since 1990. Some of it's updated, some of it's not. It's had a large 1,200 square foot auto shop / garage put in about 4 years ago during the pandemic. Okay. We had it on the market last year for a while. I knew it was overpriced. The sellers knew that it was overpriced. They were just going to see what they could get for it. But now this year they're more serious because they need the money to build a new place. So I guess my question is, given that, like, what are some things that I should consider, or resources or something, your ideas on selling a truly one-of-a-kind, unique property? Do we need maybe to have an appraiser come and help us out with pricing, or I don't know?
So there's a couple. My mind is, so whenever I look off camera, like my mind is starting the Matrix. Right?
I know. I've got a lot of info on you right there.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a multi-layered approach, and I have the same situation happening right now with one of my clients that wants me to evaluate Castle. So first, my advice there is, one, don't be super nuanced. Okay. In the whole scheme of things, do we care about the other features? The first thing we have to figure out is, what is the market reaction to a circular house or a dome, right? Mm-hmm. So my first step, and then we'll go to pricing it, right? My first step, just to kind of feel around, is, what county is this in?
Okay, it's in Pierce.
Pierce County?
Yep.
Perfect. So I would look at, and I forget what county is it. King, Pierce. What's after Pierce?
Thurston.
Thornton or something like that?
Thurston.
Okay.
Yep.
So what I would do is I start with my county, and I would take all the timelines off and find other geodomes or circular homes that have ever sold. Same technique that we talked about with the gentleman in Idaho Falls. Okay. We're going to go back and find, when was the last time those properties sold? And then I'm going to run comparables against them and just look at, hey, 2,000 square foot house, 2,000 square foot house. One's a dome, one's a regular house. Was the reaction?
Okay.
So that's my first step, because we want to find those, because an appraiser is going to need to do it anyways, right? Because if it's a lender, they're going to have to prove that the market will accept that house. So we have to find, there's no time frame on it, because typically percentages run consistent through time, except for times of mass expansion or contraction. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, that's the first thing. The second thing on the advice is, with the pricing, is we definitely want to shoot low, never high. The market never lies. One thing that I explained to Mike, because I'm brought in a lot to talk to the seller, here to take the pricing conversation off the agent. And I always use one of two examples. I say, hey, if I take one of my watches, or I take a Rolex and I put it on eBay and I put it for $2, is it going to sell for $2? Absolutely not. It will always sell for what the market will never lie to you. We might not like where the market is, but the market will never lie. Or if I hold a balloon underwater that's full of air, when I let go, what's going to happen? It's going to rise to the waterline. I might not like the waterline. But the reason why I tell people to do that, especially on list price in this market right now, is, one, the only person who's emotional in the transaction right now is the seller. It's not the buyer. Yeah. Right. And so what I've also found in markets across, whether I'm consulting in Texas or Florida, or, Washington, or even in my own state or Las Vegas, they're not even showing up if they perceive you to be overpriced. You're not even getting an opportunity to tell them how cool you are at all.
Right. We had exactly 2 showings in 4 months last year when it was on the market. So yeah, the market told us that it was overpriced.
Yeah, so it's like what we've got. We don't want to climb two mountains at the same time. You know what I mean? With one water pack, with the ruck on. Like it's like okay, there's one, it's unique. Another thing, it's over. It's perceived to be overpriced. So I would find the other properties throughout the county. You can go to another county. I'm going to get deep in the woods. Forgive me. You compare the median differences between the two counties to say, hey, if it's in Pierce County, the median price is $1 million. If it's in King, the median price is 900. That means to take that dome and put it over here, it'd be 10%, right?
Okay.
But definitely don't be so nuanced. Don't try to bracket all the other things. And that's what I've noticed. I've noticed real estate appraisers sometimes are way too macro, and real estate agents become way too nuanced. And we put too many controls, and then we have no data to work with. Instead of saying, "Hey, what's the main thing here?
Okay.
Is it the land or is it the building?"
Yeah.
And a functional bedroom count, right? Because I had a chef out of a well-known chef out of San Francisco built this beautiful, 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 beautiful property in Marin out here.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, they never thought their life would change. Beautiful 4,300 square foot property, one bedroom.
Oh,
Right. So we have to, but beautiful, chef's kitchen. It was perfect, but they didn't think about the rest of the market. So we want to start with okay. Figure out the other properties that like it. Then we start to bracket the square footage and the bedroom count. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't worry about all the other things. We say we figure out, is there a market reaction to that style? And then what is the market reaction to these characteristics, 2,000 square feet with 4 bedrooms, 3 bath. And then we put it at the low part of that range and let the market talk to us.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Yeah.
Last piece there. In that market area, we want to study the list price to sales price ratio also.
Okay.
If it's typically over, like let's say properties are getting 3% over list, back that 3% out of your perceived value also.
Yeah. Okay.
So if we know, we think, oh, it's going to sell for $1 million, we list it. We make sure we list it 3 to 4% under that. If we're going to be statistical and surgical about it.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Am I getting too far in the woods for everybody here?
no, this is awesome. Oh my gosh.
This is a master class.
Totally is.
Who else has questions for Anthony? All right. Well, looking at your next question,
Okay.
Anthony. A lot of our colleagues are afraid to talk to appraisers because there's certain things we're allowed to talk about and certain things we're not.
Okay.
What should an agent be aware of when they're talking to you as a professional?
Okay. I've got 2 answers. I've got a really, really candid one, and then I've got a really nice, fluffy one. Which one do you want first?
Candid.
Okay.
Tell
Candid
like
is,
it is,
first of all,
brother.
never be scared to talk to an appraiser if you have objective data. Who cares about pissing them off? Okay. The reason why I say this is some people are saying, hey, I don't want to offend the appraiser. We all have to remember what our job is. We're here to protect the client, right? And so we have objective data that needs to be seen. Present that. I tell my clients, email it, text it, leave it on the counter. Make sure there's no way that appraiser can say they didn't get it. Because to me, and this is where the candid part is, and I've said it in a room full of appraisers too. I've said it on my LinkedIn network also. If you get offended by a real estate agent providing you with valuable information, then the 8-year-old you needs a hug. It's really simple. But the big thing for me is another professional is trying to provide you with information. And if your refusal from that information causes monetary loss, you get sued. I remember appraisers to think about that. They tried to provide you with information that you didn't have access to. And you denied that information and you killed the deal. They lost the rate, monetary loss. That goes to lawsuit. Okay. So there's the candid part. Never be afraid if you have data. The next piece we don't want to do, and again, I've been doing this a long time, and I think everybody here, you guys protect your licenses and your professional licenses and your credibility and your ethics means something. So there's not something like, Chuck, I've seen you guys multiple times over the years speaking, whether it's breakout rooms or the main stage or whatever at Next Home. With that said, would you guys commit fraud for me if I needed you to fudge something for our property in Florida where it was like, not really my money, but it's my money, but can you guys get this done? Would you do that for me?
No, thank you.
Perfect. So I also feel the same. Like there's nothing a client can ever say to me that's going to make me do something unethical because it's not about me or that deal. I don't know that buyer or seller, but what I do know is I have a full staff in multiple offices that if I fall, the whole house of cards falls. Okay. So one, but with that said, there are some appraisers who feel influenced if you give them the story. Now we're going to talk about what not to say. Oh, we wrote on it's a single mother. She lost her husband and she's just been struggling trying to get a kid. She saved up the money. We beat out on 6 other deals and like this is the perfect house for them. Don't do the story. That I love the story. I'm still going to be evidence based, but some people might feel influenced by that. Or the house was listed for $600,000 and we had 17 offers. There's no reason why you should have no issues coming in at $612,000. Don't tell them a number. The appraiser has the contract. Okay. Um, Never threaten an appraiser in any capacity, even passively. Right. Again, it's not going to bother me. Right. I play
Former
in a game
boxer.
where people don't like the fact that they, lose $300,000 on their exit. So some people get upset sometimes, but I think it's just try not to influence them with stories. Never say they'll never do work with your office again. And don't tell them the number. They know the number, on there. So those are the main things. Don't try to influence or make somebody feel uncomfortable.
Well, that's good advice no matter who you are.
What's that?
That's good advice for everybody.
So, you know, we in a we're in a I don't know how Florida is. In California, we're a very litigious society. So we try
Same.
to stay on the lines of, not trying to figure out how many names are on top of the letterhead of the attorney.
With you on that.
So, talk to us a little bit about value audit. I'm curious about that.
From the 50,000 foot view, it was something I designed. Well, I've been doing this for 25 years, but value audit was something more of like I'm building a brand and I'm building a new way of approaching value, which just a modernized approach, having not only just an appraiser but a businessman also, and that's the part that some people forget. Is you guys have to be people, right? You have to know no strangers. So often appraisers play God in some senses, not realizing we're all human. We all screw up. I've had times where it's like, man, my daughter's been, sick and I'm literally sleeping upright all night long. And then I'm running numbers and I could miss something. Right. And zoom back. What I want to do is create an environment, an umbrella, and a brand on a foundation to where we will start to bring over the next couple of years appraisers in from different metros and different areas that follow the brand to the T. They are advanced thinkers. They remember, I don't care how long you've been doing it, that there's a human behind the number. And it's just a different way of approaching things. On top of my goal of literally changing the industry. And that's something I told, Keith Robinson, 5 years ago. I said, I'm going to change this industry. 3.5 years ago, I said, I will become the most known appraiser in the US. And we will use that to bridge the gap. And so that's what value audit is for me. It's being able to have opportunities like this to say, hey, you know what? Sometimes it's not about an appraiser. Sometimes it's just we don't understand the pricing mechanics because we were never taught. And then other times it is about appraiser. But now there's this guy that, is on social media every day that's showing us, oh, this is where to look. This is what to ask the appraiser, because it's no different than taking your car into the shop. And that's the part that frustrates me. Why is there so many unknowns? Why is there so many? What was an appraiser supposed to do? Why do we not know these things? And because we don't know these things, just because I don't know that my air filter is right there, so a box it's right there, and the other one's over here, you get to charge me $1,200, right? And that's the problem, is going back to where the consumer is getting hurt. Negligence is a thing, and nobody taught me is not a good defense in court, right? I do a lot of court stuff, and so value audit through 50,000 foot view is getting back to protecting the consumer, remembering that every deal matters. That's what I talked about on stage. Every single deal. You guys are in the same boat as me. We're only as good as the transaction we just did. They don't get to group, oh, I was a great appraiser for 25 years. Yeah, but you really messed that one up. So that's what that is, Chuck.
Mm.
Well,
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not passionate about this at all.
No, it'll be nice if you could just kind of tell us what you think, you know.
Yeah, don't be shy. Tell me what you really feel. So,
All right, before we start getting into the wrap-up mode, anybody have any questions for Anthony? This is your opportunity to ask the nation's most recognized appraiser a question.
yeah, anything in your particular market?
Golden
Like we
opportunity.
don't have basements in Florida, and I know you have a lot of things to say about basements, like the height of the ceiling and all of this.
yeah, I mean, here we hack the basements. I mean, we love it. Whether you're in Oakland, San Jose, anywhere that there's a 7 foot basement, that is I mean, you're instantly adding $1 million to a property with a 7 foot ceiling. So that's it might
Yeah.
be a thing, in some of the markets too, where it's like, hey, you get a little laser measure. It costs you $50 from Home Depot. We shoot. Oh, or like I taught my better half, babe, just take your pin. If your pin can, she knows how to just put her arm up and see if her pin touches the ceiling, and that tells her if it's 7 feet or not. The moment you know that value, the house has instant value prop.
Mm.
So, but you got, yes.
Oh, no.
Unmute yourself, Steph.
So my question is an issue that we're having with local appraisers. And when I talked to Beth Graham at my state national level, it seems to be maybe just my local appraisers, but we're having issues with the measurements of the house. So first they wanted us to only use Cubicasa, then they want the agent to do ANSI standard measurements, and that is our responsibility. And they tell us we can't use any municipal numbers. So really, what's an agent to do that's best for the consumer? Because I care about the appraisers. We work with them every day, but I want the best experience for the consumer.
Well, one with Cubicasa, I think, did you guys just partner with them not too long ago, or something rather? So as soon as that happened,
And I've been using it for a long time. I like it. I like that we have to state where our numbers come from, but I think the appraisers have different responsibilities than the listing agent.
Yeah, and that's so. As soon as that happened, obviously it's not a secret that James, Keith, and I are close friends. And so as soon as I saw the announcement, I'm messaging James like, "This is liability. This is liability for your agents. You don't want the square footage because we look at things differently." So this goes back to the original conversation about what's usable square footage, right, and ceiling height, ANSI guidelines. To answer your question, then reverse engineer back. If you have an appraiser that you really enjoy working with, they're the data nerd, but they're a people person. They have a personality, and they just do a great job regardless of personality. Have them go pre-measure the house, right? Or I can send you the guidelines on how to measure a house too, but always default to ANSI. The reason why is, and that really sent our industry in an uproar because they were, we always said that we measured based on ANSI, but it was loose. Like nobody was forcing us. And then all the litigation came down because you have one appraiser that says the house is 2,500, another guy says 2,700, another guy says 3,000. You're like, which what?
We had 7 measurements on one property,
Yeah.
2 different appraisers. I mean, we're using all the tools, but
Well, that's the reason why it was pushed for ANSI measuring guidelines, standardized way that everybody plays the same game. Are we giving value? Are we measuring usable the stairs going up to the attic? That anything that's below grade, even if it's 6 inches, that's the basement. So to answer your question, make sure I don't get too far off. Is I would learn what is valued based on ANSI measuring guidelines because that's standardized. Okay. And then I would maybe get an appraised for the best experience for the client, right? I know that I love tech. I haven't played with it, so please forgive me. I know my better half was like, "Oh, let me do this," and I'm like, "I got my laser out." Like, I don't trust that thing. It's kind of like how being in construction when I was super young, like I wouldn't trust a guy with a laser. Like, give me my tape, right? I'm not framing after you. If you're using a laser, buddy. So I would understand what ANSI is doing in a summary. I can send that to you if you don't have that. But ChatGPT will tell you a summary of that, and then I would, if we're having a conflict between the numbers that you're getting on the appraiser, I would find one guy that's pretty damn good on his measuring. So now you're anchoring your square footage to an appraiser, and that appraiser can challenge the other guys if they're off. Because we're not going to, on the surface, I'm going to shoot down Cubicasa. I don't know anything about it, right? I know it did pretty dang good when my better half used it. I haven't played with it enough to say, hey, let me audit this and say, hey, you know what? It's pretty dang good 99% of the time. So if we, in the absence of that, because the traditional appraiser, both modern and traditional old school guy legacy, right? We're not going to trust the technology. So get an appraiser that you trust to measure straight, and then use them as the anchor, because they can now challenge the other guys. Because the Cubicasa can't challenge the appraiser because they'll just shoot it down, even though it might be better than them, is in my opinion in there. But that's the reason why litigation came down, because everybody had different square footage measurements. And people were getting, again, the consumer's getting hurt. You hurt enough people, litigation causes change. So yeah, that's what I would do if it was me, if I was an agent.
I have a measuring question. So we were taught, and maybe we're fixing to find out it's wrong. You measure the outside of the house, and then you subtract any non-usable square footage.
Absolutely. When we're talking about
Good.
a detached single family residence, you always measure outside. Okay. A lot of guys, if they're measuring from inside, they have to make sure they add the thickness of the actual wood too. If it's a condo, right, it's paint to paint on the inside. We had litigation here in San Francisco where these developers try to add the thickness of these big skyscrapers to the square footage. And we're talking $1,200 a foot here, $2,000 a foot, right? So yes, it is always perimeter, and then back out the garage, back out the basement, right? And that is your everything inside that envelope. If it's a condo, it's paint to paint.
Thanks for that answer. One thing that I've noticed about Cubicasa, and as a standard of practice here, we take out the total square feet that it reports because it subtracts the thickness of all the walls, or the interior walls. So you lose a lot of square feet that way. So
I should play with it. I should play with it and just run an audit.
We just
live
take that
audit.
off, and the interior measurements are very accurate, from wall to wall.
Yeah, I've not
But
played
the
with
totals
it.
are off.
That would be a fun one for Kayla and I to do.
The thing I love about
appraiser versus-
Cubicasa, the thing I love about Cubicasa is not just for the measurements, but for a visual representation of the layout of the home.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's what I use it for. I do my own measurements. But Cubicasa is great to see where the bedroom falls in relation to the kitchen and the living room, and it's great for that.
Yeah, I've never used it. And that would be a fun one that I think my better half and I should do and see, like which one edges out. Because right now, like I'm using ChatGPT when I have a client that says, we should move this. And I'm like, well, here, just quick picture, move that wall, do this there, and it shows them within seconds. That's as far as I've gone with anything with the interior. But that's a great idea. That will come soon. We're gonna go ahead.
Yeah, Friday night.
So,
Well, this hour sure went by quickly. Anthony, I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us today.
thank you for having me.
That was just unbelievable, the volume of information, and we're sure grateful for you sharing your knowledge with us. So we meet here every other Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Anthony, I know we should all follow you on Facebook. How should we get in touch with you, and what do we need to know about you to find out more?
You can always find me. Just Google Anthony Young Appraiser. You'll be able to find all the social media things on there. And that's I'm very, very heavy on Instagram. I'm doing more on LinkedIn these days, but LinkedIn is mostly my appraiser network. It's just, if you guys have questions, just message me on Instagram, or you can find you can find anything about me by just Googling that. And I try to help as many people as possible. If you have a scenario, a unique situation, I try to help as many people as possible. But with that said, you guys are family. The Next Home family is actual family to me. So I will go over above whenever I can to try to help you guys navigate whatever it is. And the scenarios and the pricing strategies are the same across the US. It's just how to approach the problem is what we call it. We define the problem. That's our first step. And so if I can help you, please don't hesitate to reach out.